What is up, everybody, man? It's Leo and Josh back again with another episode of 713 Football, man. Listen, this is a blessing right here, man. First of all, to be able to come on this with y'all, man, our bills are paid, we're fed. And listen, the Texans are on a really nice win streak, man. Listen, we won four straight. I think we're 6-2 in the last 8 weeks or something crazy like that. Man, listen, Josh. I mean, this was a great game, man. I mean, back-to-back games to me, against the Bills and the Colts, man. What are you thinking right now about how our season looks and what the feeling of this team is moving forward?
It it was great to see a complete game where we beat a team in all phases. Like, I don't remember the last time we had this kind of game against a quality opponent. Like, I know people are gonna come back and say the Colts were, they're on the downturn, they're 1-3 in the last four and blah blah blah, all this different shit. But like in reality, we've been our worst own enemy a lot of times, especially on offense, and we're able to kind of fix that. And I think what it shows you is D'Amico has a great pulse on this team right now, and there's an energy about it where there's a forward momentum and things are building, kind of the way you used to see with those really great defenses back, where he didn't have to do much and now he's doing a little more. So I'm excited to see the show keeping going, and I think the way we can finish this year out, the ascension will continue if we can keep playing quality football.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk a little bit about that, man. The change, although whether or not at first you think it's a big or a small change, Matt Burke calling the plays as a defensive coordinator, man. I mean, that has freed up D'Amico, like you talk about the pulse of the team and the problems last year that he, not to get into rumors, but there didn't seem like he was that connected to the offensive side of the ball, especially how people got along with Bobby Slowick, especially. But when you look at this team and how, to me, like the mark of a great team is, picking each other. Sometimes guys have to, some sides of the ball have to pick each other up, right? This defense has not taken any letdowns, no matter what the offense has put on the field this year. And when you think about other teams that have had good defenses, right? Like the Jets, for instance. I know like there was a lot of talk about, comparing D'Amico to Robert Saleh when we first hired him. Man, this year has been a very, very good job from D'Amico where you cannot, there is like worlds difference between the two. Like obviously Saleh is a great defensive mind, but as a leader and as a head coach, man, I think D'Amico has separated himself. Josh, man, what do you think about that? Like the change, allowing Matt Burke to call plays. Do you think that's freed D'Amico up to be an even better head coach overall to you?
Yeah, I think it has because man, it was really interesting. I was hesitant at first, especially after that first game in Seattle. Maybe the first time they really played a quality opponent with Burke as DC. It really came out flat to me. Didn't like a lot of things he was doing that game, but ever since then, he's kind of learned from his mistakes. They've come out with better plans, and I know D'Amico's been involved with all the plans. So saying that putting that all on Matt Burke is one thing, but I think what the one thing you do see and kind of the thing where Matt Burke is going to make more of an impact as the play caller and as the guy that's really kind of steadying the ship on the defensive side is that you're seeing now adjustments happen quicker. And you're seeing things happen where, okay, they're getting us once on something, and then you're not seeing it happen again, right? They'll get us on a screen like they happened this last game. You don't see it again. And you're seeing a progression. Similar how we always talk about offensively, we're starting to see more of a development defensively where, in a good offense, you want to play like a certain amount of base things and you want to build off of that eventually and get more and more complex. Well, I think we're in the level defensively. You don't usually see this because a lot of times defenses are in this like survival mode, right? But we're in this thrival mode where we're able to play this real base level defense. We were basically, I mean, I was kind of going back and watching to really make sure I wasn't like hallucinating about it, but we're really it reminds me of back in LSU, like back when LSU was at his prime, because that's my reference for a lot of football stuff, right? Is those great teams. They used to do something called cat coverage, where I got that cat and you got that cat, and we're just so damn good at DB, we're gonna lock you up. Well, they're doing that on the D line right now, and I think that's what D'Amico's seeing is that initially they were like, all right, our guys are so good, we don't have to move guys around. We're gonna keep them in the same spot. We're gonna attack and we're gonna beat their ass and beat them into the ground. Now you're finally starting to see, and I'm curious what you think about this, man. They're finally moving Will around and like targeting the weak link. You don't usually see this with D'Amico in the defense until the playoffs, but I think him taking it back to your initial question, his perspective now and being able to look at everything kind of in a macro sense, he's able to kind of get into those wrinkles a little quicker. You're seeing Jalen Petrie used as a blitzer more often earlier in games. You didn't used to see that until the playoffs came around. There's like, and it's not because they're leaning into and they're showing too much, but they're able to kind of tip their toe in here and there. And it just reminds me of kind of like some of those really amazing defenses historically. I go back specifically, the first time I really heard people talk about it was Charles Haley. I know it may be a little old head name for some of the young people watching this stream, but like he was the first dude as a pass rusher that Jimmy Johnson and then subsequently over in San Francisco, I don't remember the DC in San Francisco was, they would move him around and target the weak link and kind of do it that way. And they're finally doing it at the will. But I think those kind of like real like high level chess moves, it's the first time we've really seen D'Amico have an opportunity to kind of look at it more in a macro sense and not be stuck in the minutia, because he really has been able to trust the defense over there, and he's kind of given as frustrating as it's been on offense, like he's kind of seems like he's been able to spend more time over there and kind of donate more time, and you've seen kind of a development there, which is kind of cool. So I think overall it's been beneficial for the team. And I think that it's just something moving forward that's going to be more and more exciting as we play more and more quality teams moving into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's the interesting thing about that, like you said, moving Will around, because that play where he lined up over the center, man, that wasn't really like an exotic look or a look that we haven't given before. They literally just lined him up at Mike linebacker and just basically zero blitz. I don't know what the coverage is, but they sent 5 or 6 or whatever.
Right.
You know, it was just literally
Right.
just a sugar look. So he's not really showing more. He's just moving guys around a little bit more, which is great, man. Yeah, and I can kind of see that too, man. But let's get into the one of the bigger things that people have been talking about: the offensive line changes, man. The offensive line over the past few weeks have been playing very, very good. And I know Buckner was out and he's on the IR, but man, I mean, the Colts have been putting up a decent amount of pressures this season, right? And our line did a good job. And not only that, it wasn't a sexy run game. It wasn't like we was like gashing them on the ground, but this was the first game like in a while where I felt like we had pretty much consistent, ground game. Let's hope that Woody Marks is healthy. But listen, man, both our running backs, it's crazy at the bar. This might feel like a low bar, but both our running backs had over 3.5 yards per carry, which to me is a great accomplishment in a big game. Josh, what do you think about that? And I mean, let's just start there off the offensive line, bro. Like, what do you think about this lineup that they're using now?
It's beautiful, man. Beautiful. I just did a post out on. Oh, excuse me. I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. It's been a long time coming. Me and Leo have been screaming about, man, please get a bigger offensive line. Please get more physical. And now we got two absolute like creatures from the depths. Like if people see what our thumbnail was for this, I think it was Mike Myers.
It was Jason.
Oh, Jason. Yeah, it was Jason. I mean, that's the kind of dudes you don't want to see in the dark alley. You got Ursary on one side and Trent Brown over there. And I think the thing that has kind of brought this whole offensive line together and it allowed it to kind of settle is the ability and the willingness, really, is the ability of Titus Howard to move inside at left guard and not be a malcontent. I did a post recently on Twitter, kind of lined up all things, trying to give the flowers to Caserio about kind of what he's done with this, but it's just the flexibility. There's been growing pains because they've tried different things, they've moved into things, but I think the beauty of this offensive line and the reason that it's worked out is they haven't been afraid to make changes. And you finally seen it where they have the center position solidified with Andrews. They've got two dudes that are absolute people movers on the edges at left tackle and right tackle. And you have the key to this offensive line, I think, especially in the run game. The reason you're seeing these like doubles teams and these climbing to second level is Ed Ingram. He gives you that nastiness and that kind of, was it what Danny Campbell used to say, knee chewers or glass chewers?
Knee biters.
Knee biters. There you go. Man, it's crazy to me that we're at a point now where we're looking at it and it's like it's starting to become something that is not something we have to scheme around. And I think you're 100% right. And I'm curious your thoughts of like how like assuming Woody Marks can continuously play, because like you can't worry about injuries at this point. Hopefully he stays healthy. How reproducible is this, Leo, in that they can lean to this run game and then it'll allow CJ to settle and it'll allow everyone to kind of let settle in. It's really one of the better games CJ's played in a while, especially in that second half. The way he was able to play across the board, but kind of what do you think? Do you think this is a reproducible game? The way this game plan was is something that's going to work against some of the other teams and more exotic defenses we're facing coming up?
Well, you know, it kind of has to. Like, if this team is going to be successful, it absolutely has to, because again, it's not like we're saying like, you know, we averaged like 5, 6, 7 yards a carry and we ripped off a couple like huge runs, right? This was literally just basically just keeping us on schedule, you know. And I think that yeah, it's definitely reproducible. And I want to say I do think that, you know, moving Titus to left guard, like you said, put Ed Ingram. I wish I had a clip to show y'all, but Ed Ingram completely pancaked someone, you know, this week. You know, and led to like a 5 to 10 yard run, I think. But yeah, man, I mean, you know, we have like massive tackles now. So you would think that we're just asking them to get us 3 to 4 yards a carry, right? And so, yeah, I think it's 100% doable, right? And another thing, too, I know a lot of people were talking about why Kaylee is running straight up the middle of the field, right? We're starting to see him attack the edges more with toss plays and stuff. So I think that the diversity in the run game is definitely something that can help. And I think that, you know, we're in a good spot to continue to move forward. And, you know, and maybe, you know, like not only just reproduce this, but just to kind of, you know, honestly get a little bit better at it, you know, at running the football, you would hope, you know. Because if this team is going to make the playoffs, and not only just make the playoffs, because I feel like we're in pretty good position to do that, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a second. I mean, you know, if we want to, you know, have a good time in the playoffs and go further than we've done, I think, you know, it goes beyond scoring points. And I wish that's another thing for another day we'll do. You know, I have the Bill Belichick. You know, I know a lot of Texan fans especially hate Bill Belichick, but I have the list of things that he viewed like, I guess, successful offenses do. And the first thing that he talks about is staying on the field, converting first downs, right? And the last thing is actually scoring points, right? For this defense to win in the playoffs, we have to keep them in good positions, right? We have to keep them off the field as much as possible. And I think that for us to be successful in the playoffs, we have to be able to replicate this run game, and like not only just help the defense, but keep CJ in situations where he doesn't have to do too much, right? If he makes a crazy play, you know, make it because it's coming in the flow of the game. Don't demand that he has to go bonkers every single play for us to have success. And you know, that's kind of how I view it, man. I mean, shit. What about you, bro? Do you think that we've seen the best of this run game? Do you think it can get better at all, or is this kind of what you think is going to be moving into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it 100% has to do. And one thing that kind of made me question the whole getting rid of Damian Pierce when we did, because this is how thin we are running back, was I think what we're seeing is that there's awareness of what we are at this point, and we're not no longer trying to use guys in roles that they're not capable of doing. Like we know what Trent Brown is good at, we know what Ursay's good at, we know what Ingram's good at, we know what Andrews, we know what Titus is good at across the board. Assuming these guys can stay healthy, which I mean, so far so good. Hopefully, you know, we can continue to build on that. But seeing how these guys kind of attack everything, and now that teams are going to have tape on it, I think there are a lot of ways to kind of, you know, adjust off of and create some different looks. I think a big piece to this, and the thing that I think one guy coming back that I think has really kind of helped kind of diversify our run game has been Stover coming back off the injured list, right? I think him coming back, there's ways to use him. I think using British Brooks, there's going to be certain ways to use him. Jacob Johnson, or Jakob Johnson. I think he's going to come off eventually from the injury report. He's going to be another element to kind of diversify things. I think all those guys mixed in may allow us to kind of attack on the edges a little more. And I think what's going to do is not only open up the inside stuff, but start opening up things on the outside, because we're going to kind of be a little more creative. We got 3 big receivers, right, that can all block. with Nico, Hutch, and Higgins have all been able to do that. Knowles a willing blocker too. So there's a lot of diversity there we can get to. The question is like how much is Kaylee willing to go there? I know he's very game plan specific. The concern we've had previously is that he's kind of gets really good in one game and then he kind of tries to do something completely different than the next instead of just sticking what works. We'll see how that works because I think the biggest and most important thing, and we've talked about this a lot, and maybe it'll transition us to another topic, but how much it is mandatory to run the ball, attack in the middle of the field, really land those body blows in order to open things up for CJ Stroud and allow him to settle and allow him to kind of ease into the game and play like he did in the second half this past week.
Yeah, so let's talk about CJ. I mean, it's a touchy topic, I guess, for us, because, nobody likes to say anything remotely bad about the quarterback. But, I mean, he has struggled, for the past year, it seems like. And there was points in this game where it seemed like, after the interception, right? But like you said, he definitely turned it on. There was a period where he was moving the ball downfield. He didn't score in the red zone. We didn't throw a legit touchdown pass, right? But, he did do enough. And I think that's another question. Is this performance? I mean, honestly, man, this kind of felt like a playoff type game or playoff type performance. Those stat lines in the playoffs a lot of times are not sexy at all. You want to see maybe a score or two more, one touchdown, like 270 yards, a touchdown, no turnovers, one turnover. I think that's a really good game, especially with this defense playing how it's playing. Josh, man, do you think if CJ can play like this or just marginally better, like what do you think about our chances in the playoffs?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I think this is what we've really if he can play like he did in the second half, I think we have a good chance, especially the way injuries are playing out in Buffalo with their receiving core and across the board. KC's not really the biggest threat. They've been our big bugaboo to kind of going through and everything. I think there's a lot of different things falling in place in our side of the bracket in the AFC that allows us to kind of go through and kind of make a kind of step up and advance a little farther. New England doesn't really scare anybody, right? Like they're good, but like they're young. They're kind of where we were a couple years ago. Growing. I think they'll be good because Vrabel's there and they have some players, but I think talent-wise we can match up with them. There's a lot of different teams that we can match up with, but the Broncos will be really tough because how good they're defensive. It's kind of like looking in the mirror. It's like the Spider-Man meme. But I think it all comes back to like with CJ and we're saying like, all right, how good can it be? Is this winnable? It spins back around to Kaylee. I think Kaylee had probably one of his better games as a play caller. It wasn't anything sexy, but his pacing was good. It was not predictable. The play action stuff was good. You always joke that his play action stuff is looking more and more like Slowick runs out there, right? But I think he mixed it up well with the run game. The way they were staggering kind of things. They kind of kept the Colts on edge, and I think you saw it where CJ had that rusty. We'll say rusty. First half, he was pressing a bunch. He was trying to run when there was no pressure. Saw in the red zone, probably cost us at least 7 points there, or it's 4 points. I think we got a field goal out of that drive. But I think what you have to do and what you saw him settle in, like in the second half, you saw CJ Stroud, and the things that we look for is like he had 14 dropbacks in the second half. Like it wasn't this crazy amount. Like that's kind of where you want to be at, especially with how efficient we were offensively, kind of moving the ball. He had a 57% success rate. He threw the ball well on the sideline throws. On the move, he was good. He was spreading around to Hutch, to Higgins. He kept going after Nico. What didn't kind of move away from there. He had this really great play on a curl, on a kind of a deep curl. It's called a hinge route, for the football nerds out there. And he hit him, like threw it to Nico before he got out of his break, and I thought it was really impressive. And I think overall, the thing that really impressed me with CJ was his ability to attack man. And you know how good, I know they lost Sauce, and everyone's going to talk about that, but they still have Ward out there, and they have some decent cover players, especially at the nickel spot and different things. But man, the dude was 9 of 11, 132 yards. I mean, I think it's, if you have a guy that's going to come out, and we both agree, and we've talked about it offline, where he just can't turn the ball over. That pick is kind of classic CJ Stroud. I see like too deep, look where I think I can fit it between like the space that's never there in that coverage. Basically, you can throw that versus single high because it's kind of like the cover, or if you're throwing against zone like a cover two hole shot. But there's sometimes where he has too much, arrogance on about his arm. It's good to have that in doses, but I think if he can layer that back and pull that back, and I think the best way to do that is to run the ball and kind of make stuff so easy for him that he's just able to drop, hit, out, drop, hit, out. All those different things really keep him really simple, get him back to how he played in the Ohio State. I think you can win with that, especially the way this defense is playing right now. There's one, we'll talk about it, there's one hole on the defense that can be kind of attacked, but like across the board, it's a damn good unit, and the more and more we run the ball, the better and better the defense is going to be, which will better and better this team will be.
Yeah, so let's I want to say this one thing too before we go in. Nico Collins averaged, over 19 yards a catch, this week. And that was kind of one of my big criticisms with Kaylee, and also with how he used Jaden Higgins, man. I didn't feel like, you never really felt like they were big play guys, It seemed like both of them were averaging under 10 yards a catch at points in the season. I think that, that's I think it was a big step forward for the whole entire offense, right? And also, Kaylee, and piggybacking off one thing that you said before we move to the defense, like you said, running the ball helps CJ. I think, if there's ways that, and we saw this under Slowick, and I have seen it under Kaylee as well. The more you run the ball, the more play action shots that you can design for him to literally push, design the shot in the play. You know what I mean? Don't, the fewer times that he, gets to just roll out and just kind of freelance and then push the ball downfield, I don't think he's not there yet to where you could just trust him in those situations personally, and that's not even saying that he can't be there by the end of the year or by the playoffs or, something like that or ever. I'm just saying it just right now. For me, I would like to see more structured shots, and that's kind of where I'm at. Now let's go right into the defense, man. You said there's a hole in the defense. What exactly do you think it is? Where do you feel the hole is?
Yeah, man, it's really interesting. I wanted to put my my hat on to say, okay, where's Andy Reid gonna attack us, right? Because there's something he's looking at, and it's like, all right, what's the deal? And I think the one spot I saw, like looking through the stats and kind of looking over the tape and things that teams haven't been able to reproduce because the talent is there or the talent isn't. It's the slot, right? It's the one places is the slot, and specifically in man coverage, we're only 30th in the league in man coverage versus slot, and we give up a 65% success rate. It's like top 3 worst or something, and then we also give the highest explosive pass rating against there. So the question is, like, we got now Rashee Rice coming in town, right? And I think part of it is like the thing that doesn't scare me, like mortal injury kind of thing, a thing that we can't come back from, is we have had a lot of games where this year where Petrie hasn't been out there. Like, so maybe the numbers are twisted a little bit from that. But I also think that's inherently one of Petrie's weaknesses, right? He's not an elite cover player. He's a good cover player, and specifically within the scheme when the linebackers are doing their job, he can do a great job. But it's only been on a 30 drop back sample size. So teams haven't really had an opportunity because D'Amico, we talked about that big picture view. I'm sure he knows this. Like, I'm sure it's a self-scout thing that they know over and over again. And they do a really good job with how they drop their linebackers, kind of covering up holes, the way they kind of ease guys over, and they're able to kind of cheat with how good their corners are outside, that they can kind of throw the kitchen sink at the middle of the field and then kind of just say, you know what, we're going to take away the sidelines. They're not going to even be, I think Stingley didn't get the ball at all, but that's the one that's the one spot where I could say, all right, moving forward, obviously we've had moments of bad run defense, but it seems like we've been kind of cooking there recently, especially since we started using Autry more inside and you kind of rotating so many different guys that can stay fresh. But that's kind of the one spot that I really found interesting, because it's kind of interesting that it's so bad yet such a smaller sample size. It's kind of fascinating to see how it plays out moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean another thing too that is scary also is Aziz being hurt. We don't know if he's gonna play or what's wrong with him right now. You know what I mean? But hopefully he can work through it. You know what I mean? So like that coupled with a linebacker issue is a big problem. As we saw last year in the final game of the season, I don't think that they literally threw the ball outside against an actual cornerback one time. You know what I mean? I don't think
No.
they completed a pass outside one time. So yeah, man. But again, I think it kind of goes back to what you're saying, like how I mean, honestly, here's what the game is going to come down to is like how well can we stop the RPOs on early downs against them? You know what I mean? If we stop the RPOs on early downs, you know what I mean, and then we can kind of possibly play a little bit more dime, even, maybe take off a linebacker and get to a spot where we can really just, show really strange looks and kind of blitz him. I expect this is a game that I feel like D'Amico, like we always talk about, and going back from the first season that he was here when he was really playing really vanilla defenses, right? And we were able to win those games, but he really wasn't showing anything at all. Like until the playoffs, really. His D'Amico and CJ Stroud's rookie year on defense, y'all. Stay with me. Make sure you stay with me. And then the next year, he does the same thing. But then we have these massive games on, like massive night games where everybody's watching and he's basically almost playing a completely different defense at points of the game. This is such a meaningful game for our playoff hopes, right? That we can't afford. Like you can afford to lose against the Raiders, you know what I mean? I guess because they won't hold a tiebreaker over you. They stink, right? I don't really feel that good about the Chargers playoff chances with, obviously I want to win out. And I feel like you really can only afford to lose one of those two games between the Raiders and the Chargers. This is a game that kind of will break up the Colts game between the Colts division game with us. This is a game that you can't lose, You cannot lose this game because until the Chiefs are out, you have to think about that tiebreaker situation. So I expect D'Amico to run a lot of different things this game. I expect him also, and I think that like you brought up, and that we were great against the run this week. I know Jonathan Taylor. You look at the numbers; he averaged like 4 yards a carry. To me, that's great. He didn't break a huge runoff. Great, it just goes back to, can we stop the RPOs? Can we stop the run on early downs? Can we get, to a situation where we can attack Mahomes, attack their weaker offensive line now, And I know Mahomes is the GOAT or whatever, not my GOAT, but, he hasn't looked amazing this year, right? So I think the more and more situations you get him to where he can't just do whatever they want to do on third down. They can't just run some little bozo ass trick play. Like make him drop back and actually be a quarterback. And I think and deal with our pass rush and make Rashee Rice beat you in man coverage, right? Make these guys actually beat you, And to me, that's how I feel about the key to this game, Josh. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the run game. I kind of dug into those numbers. Everyone sees 2185. They think that's like pretty decent. But they had 46 of those yards on 4 carries, right? So it was 17 other carries that were all under 10 yards, only 39 total yards there with a season low 33% success rate, which is really low for Jonathan Taylor, right? So I think it was funny, like for us to it's like we kind of beat the final boss in front of, because their line played really well. Like we got pressure on them, but on the sliding scale of what we usually do to offensive lines, they played a pretty damn good game. We only got them once on a sack. There was a bunch of pressure and everything, but it was funny how the Colts we see them run 21 times with JT, but man, it seemed like they should have ran more and earlier and kind of stayed in that early in the game, in the drive, and kind of been more stubborn with that shit, right? And I think what we exposed there is that we were just able to kind of take away the play action completely. We're one of the better play action defenses in football, and we kind of forced them into non-play action dropbacks, which they were only 5 of 16 in that game, and it was like a 41% pressure rate on like true dropbacks, which is crazy as hell. So I think when you tie that all together, and the point you were making with RPO is like reigns super strong with that, is that that's what their team is built off of. And they're kind of an inverted team where it's inside out. It's all Kelsey, it's all Rice. We haven't played Rice in a while. I don't remember the last time we went up against
I don't
them.
think he played last year.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
didn't play last year, and I don't
yeah.
remember if he played the year before or yeah, it's been a while, so it's gonna be really interesting. They actually have the ability to kind of take advantage of our weak spot. The question is, and something that you brought up, it's like where's the receiving cores? Because I think the biggest thing that kind of can give us trouble is if you got three receivers out there that really force us to pay attention to outside and not really cheat inside. They have Worthy out there. He's fast, and you got Rice, but like other than that, it's Kelsey, and then it's kind of a bunch of question marks. Can't remember who else I'm missing. Did they still have Mikael Hardman? But he's not. I mean, I don't
I
think.
mean, so it's Worthy. I mean, it's really kind of not.
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
receiving
It's
core isn't, but I mean, here's another thing too. As we kind of wrap it up, y'all, this is going to be a quick show, and maybe we can go live later this week. Again, but listen, I mean, also if you haven't super chat, if you support the channel, man, super chat us. Maybe we might spend an extra 5 minutes. It supports us and paying a little bit of the bills that we have. I might start going live on Twitter. If you want to help the channel out, super chat us. It can help me pay for that, and experiment a little bit more. But anyway, back to what we were talking about, missed tackles, right? I think we tackled better this game. I'm not looking at the numbers, right, Josh? But we talk about Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is not a great route runner. He's not some, elite separator type of guy. But he is a guy that once he gets the ball in his hands, it's like tackling the running back. So again, I'm thinking about 3rd and 8. Maybe if Mahomes is comfortable taking like a 5-yard in or a 5-yard little hook route or something like that, he's a guy that if we tackle well this game and we play good on early downs, they really can't move the ball on us. You know
right.
what I'm saying? And so I kind of like this matchup. Again, I think we were talking earlier. There's to me, all the teams that match up really well against our defense specifically are in the NFC. I think the Cowboys would, because they have two really good out guys that can win outside and kind of move around. Obviously the Eagles. There's no teams like that on the AFC anymore. And again, this is the last point I'm gonna make about this matchup specifically as I pull back up this banner. Winning on first down. There was points in this game last week against the Colts that we were able to use Kamari Lassiter in the slot because we were good on first down. You cannot do that and be terrible on first down and be giving up 4, 5, 6, 7 yards to where he has to play run defense there. You know what I mean? If you want to hide Petrie, the best way to do it is win on the first downs so that we can start moving better coverage players into the slot against Kelsey and against Rashee Rice. Because like we say, there's nobody that really scares me against Stingley on their team at all. I'm not worried about that at all. But when it comes down to making plays against Kelsey and Rice, that's a bigger issue. But again, take advantage of their tackles, the offensive line issues. Take away those quick little reads, and I think this is a game where we hold them to around under 20 points, and we can figure out a way to manufacture 20 points, and we could get out of Kansas City with a dub, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of conundrum I've gone around in my head about with this KC versus Colts thing, and I think in some ways they were really difficult with the run game and their ability to attack vertically and Daniel Jones' ability to place the ball against good coverage. But they didn't really have a guy as a really like legit yak ability. Like tight ends are one thing. I think we've done pretty well with those. But those guys that are like running backs out in space that kind of play like that, like a Rashee Rice is that kind of player that can play out in space. I think Kareem Hunt can kind of be a difficult tackle even at this age. Like Isaiah Pacheco can be difficult out there. Those are the kind of guys we've kind of struggled with. The guys that have more lateral twitch. I think Kelsey can still have flashes of that, but in some ways it's almost. I mean, I hope he still plays, and we haven't heard updates. But in some way, this is a game where Aziz missing wouldn't be terrible because of how bad it went last time he was out there. I mean, hopefully he's healthy and everything,
I mean,
but
especially hurt, right? Because he was
right,
hurt last time.
right, right,
So
right, right. And you saw
yeah.
them just take advantage of that over and over again. But man, I'm curious to see what their reaction is to them having. I think it's 3 offensive linemen missing in this game. Like, what is their kind of counter to that? And then on the other side, like, what is their counter to kind of taking away and creating chaos for C.J. Stroud? Because they saw it last week. They're not idiots. They saw how good he looked when things were calm and relaxed and everything. So how are they going to force our massive tackles to kind of have to move around more? Is it going to be more wider fronts that's going to make them kind of expand a little bit in their drops? Like, are there different things they're going to have to do? Are they going to force Ed Ingram, who can have some issues in pass pro at times, kind of play in space more? So how are we going to then continue to run the ball and be a physical team down inside the tackles and take advantage and not allow them to get in those kind of spread out, kind of simulated pressure, Spagnola special situation? So, man, I'm really fascinated with how good it was in this Colts game and so many things that we can build on, especially just looking at the second half as a microcosm. Like, moving forward, this is going to be such a great test, especially the fact that it's in KC. It's going to be cold as shit at night. It's going to be CJ's going to kind of have to go back and kind of exercise some demons. And I'd be really interested to kind of see, like, what do you have a score prediction that you want to throw out there?
Yeah, man. I'm thinking, somewhere like around the 20s. Or like teens and 20s. I think 24 points wins this game. I think I really want to say damn near 20 points win this game. The way this defense is playing, our defense is playing, especially, is really, really mind-boggling, and it's really inspirational to watch. As a Texan fan, man, because the first couple games, you see what they did, and you kind of just gloss over because you lost, but you know the performances that we put on in the first 2 weeks, especially, man, this game, this defense is very, very, passionate. And, I don't think, I think that, I think we played Mahomes really, really well in the playoffs last year, especially. I thought we were playing them pretty good, until Tank Dell got hurt, the first time. So I think that we match up really well. So I'm going to go ahead and say like 24-19, 24 to, 17, somewhere in there. But yeah, man, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start getting kind of repetitive and boring, but I think it's gonna be 21-17 again. Like, I keep thinking that seeing that as like the score, seeing where that's kind of where they're gonna go. It's gonna be the 21-17. I could see that 24. I don't know if we get to 24. Like, I think they're gonna throw a lot of stuff at us, and it's gonna be first team to 20 is probably gonna win. It could be a 21-20 game. Like, it could be there's so many different ways to go. There could be missed extra points, being outside, missed field goals. That's my biggest fear, is Kaimi outside. Kind of how like all over the place. He probably should have missed that extra point. That's a whole nother. That's probably should have been missed extra point in the game we saw. So hopefully they're able to clean that shit up and kind of work forward. And I think that's kind of what the score is. Do you want to grab a couple of comments real quick before we head out?
Yeah. Offense will need more. Will definitely need more than 20 points to win in KC. I mean, maybe. I mean, well, yeah. I guess we both kind of said that, but not that much more. I don't think we're gonna need like 30.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd be concerned too of like special team score by KC potentially,
Right.
Um, maybe that's something that we have to look out. Or our guy Texans Tangent, he said we got to get in the end zone, can't leave it up to Fairbanks, ice foot in cold weather. Yeah, I mean that's true. I mean, you got to score. I mean, that's the biggest thing. The biggest concern we have, right, moving forward is like, damn, this red zone shit has to kind of get together. Like, I
Yeah.
like the creativity of like Cade Stover as a as a QB sneak guy. Maybe there's more versatility that we can mix in so we don't run it twice in a row and we can find like different things to work off. But I like at least that we're trying some different shit. I know everyone in the league is doing it. We're kind of way behind the we're kind of just catching on at the end, but shit, man, I think that's kind of it. The captain said 2713. Appreciate you being a member. Let's see. I think that's about it. Anyone else? If anyone wants to throw a prediction in there, as we're signing off, let us know. Everyone wants a super chat, send us something, and wants to become a member, like it, subscribe. I just figured out as we were working through, I know we're having issues with 2 different views. I just figured out how to fix that, but I can't do it until the next time we go on live. So next time we go on live, we won't have the 2 views set up, so people won't get confused coming on. We saw some people have issues with that. That's our bad. We'll fix it, and we look forward to seeing y'all next time.
All right, y'all, man. Make sure y'all like, sub, and share everything Josh said, man. Join if y'all want to. We have a good membership program, and like for more stuff. We'll be back real soon, y'all.